Welcome to the AFR Saints channel, where we provide you daily content on your favorite team, the New Orleans Saints. Do us a favor and hit that subscribe button. Be sure to leave your comments below and smash that like button. Hudak. Let me start this way. Do you think the Saints are done at safety? Are they content with who they have on their roster right now?
I'd say no, only because kind of looking at Dennis Allen's comments at the owners' meeting this offseason, saying that he's kind of looking for two safeties with interchangeable skill sets, that's a pretty strong deviation from what they had with Marcus Williams and Malcolm Jenkins. And to me, they kind of satisfied the Malcolm Jenkins, box run support role with Marcus May from the Jets. But losing that true free safety and the range that Marcus Williams had, they do have, a sum of parts in Garner-Johnson's blitzing abilities. P.J. Williams can do the same thing. And Justin Evans, who was their signing from Tampa Bay, has upside, but he's only played 24 games. So to say that he would be, a starting free safety doesn't really make sense. And then to me, putting P.J. Williams in, a two-back set with Marcus May doesn't really play to either of their skill sets. So could they do it? Yes. But it reminds me of the cornerback role last year where the dominoes kind of fell, where Ken Crawley was the addition and then he got injured. Patrick Robinson retired, and they really found something in Paulson Adebo, who was kind of one of those sneaky draft finds. And so I would look to them to kind of do the same thing at safety, given how that other role unfolded last offseason.
Okay, so do you think, and I'll go into some particulars here in a second, but do you think they address safety in the draft? Or, and you did share a quote from Dennis Allen saying he'd like to build the roster through the draft and augment in free agency. Is this a spot where you think they need to build through the draft or augment in free agency?
I would say build through the draft because they've already kind of augmented in free agency. And to me, if you were going to do that, you would have just paid Marcus Williams in the first place. But seeing as they, let him walk, yes, Tyrique Matthews out there, and for the right price, I do think that could work. And so that could be something that if they don't get the player that they were kind of looking at in the draft, trying to kind of pick him up afterwards. But Mickey Loomis's comment about thinking they can get three players in their top 20 to 25 in those first picks at 16, 19, and 49, and knowing that one of their needs is the safety role, and kind of seeing that there are multiple options that would fit with the team, I could also see a scenario where they trade up from 49, kind of just get the safety they want and get out of Dodge, out of this draft. But I wouldn't miss out on some of these prospects if I were them.
Okay, we'll get to maybe some of the prospects if you have names that you like in just a quick second. But I want to run through some of what you did here in the piece at Saints Wire. Can you just start with your thesis, what the idea was behind why you went into such a deep dive into all of these players and their particular positions?
Yeah, and it was really Dennis Allen's comment about wanting two safeties with interchangeable skill sets, because that to me was so different from such a defined starting strong and free safety that they've had now for seasons. And so kind of looking back and assessing who they've signed at the position, I was curious because I did like what I saw from Justin Evans. And so looking at his film made me kind of want to look more. And I had looked initially at Marcus May when they signed him. Everyone had kind of said that was relevant to the Marcus Williams departure, but to me that never really added up with his skill set. And Malcolm Jenkins, going down to the veteran minimum salary, that was kind of an indication that he was looking to retire. So I've kind of been building this, not really sure where it was going, to be honest with you, until I really went through all the film, and then starting to track who the Saints have been visiting and who they've spoken with. That kind of put me on to this might be, something they were actually looking at in the draft. And so looking at Allen's initial comment about those two interchangeable safeties, that's not something that exists on the roster as of now. So I kind of wanted to see what they could bring to the table in the current group, but to see if that analysis held up with, what he called his perfect world scenario.
All right, we'll get into what that perfect world scenario is in just a quick second. By the way, she's on Twitter at Maddy, at Maddy Hudak _94. That's MADDY HUDAK. I was most intrigued reading through it when you kind of went through the film on Justin Evans, because obviously the Saints have typically leaned on the NFC South in free agency, and this is a guy, though, still that I'm not super familiar with. So how does Justin Evans fit in this defense?
He has the mentality, to me, first and foremost. He's just a playmaker, and he really wants to make plays on the ball. He was really eager to try to break up passes, make interceptions, and I'd rather have a safety going for it and missing every so often than one who kind of likes to sit back and hang off the screen and, kind of just sit in that free safety role. He showed, a willingness to really want to come up and attack. And I think that aggressive mentality from Demario Davis, Quan Alexander, they lose some of that with Malcolm Jenkins, but, Marshawn Lattimore, there's just so many guys on that defense that are really formidable and opposing people. And he had that aggressive nature to me. He wanted to come up and make tackles, which can be a concern with his injury history. But trait speaking, he, to me, is more well-rounded than Marcus May as looking at it from a prospect perspective. And I think that's a good point, too, with the NFC South matchup. They saw him play multiple times. But I just saw him really ball hawking more often than not.
So one of the points that I've kind of said throughout all this is why not? You could theoretically kick Chauncey Garner-Johnson back to free, and you could play Bradley Roby at nickel, and then you've got your 5 best defensive backs on the field all at one time. Why would that not be a best option for this defense?
Well, they've really always wanted to highlight player strengths and use them for what they're good at rather than trying to fit them in a square, a square peg in a circle hole kind of thing. And C.J. Garner-Johnson, he has that twitch that you want in a slot corner, that really short quickness where he can blitz, get to the quarterback, and handle the slot receiver. And so for him to have all of those cultivated skills and really a defined role, to me, putting him back there, you never really see him operating in a range type situation. So I'm not entirely sure that, his closing quickness is there, that he can accelerate long. Chris Richard is a very good coach, and I think they have the right staff to be able to make it work. But again, it would be one of those things where you're not utilizing the player for what they're best at. And that seems to be kind of what turned this defense around when Dennis Allen came back in 2015. It was, well, what is this player good at, and how can we lean on that rather than fill a weakness with a player that might not be the best fit?
We talked about Tyrann Mathieu. Is it Tyrann, or is there another free agent out there that you look at and say, yep, that fits what they want to do?
I'd have to look again, just because I haven't really looked through free agency, but just keeping that philosophy again in mind, where they like to augment in free agency, but really build through the draft, and that the intent behind that trade with the Eagles, they are clearly, looking at several players, but Mickey Loomis had also noted that was a cap management strategy moving forward, and they're trying not to keep kicking the can down the road. And so to me, whoever would be on the market, either if they're affordable, then they're probably not that much of an impact player. And if they're not affordable, then that doesn't really seem to be the best move when you could get a much cheaper prospect in the top 50 at that point.
I hear you, but the day they stop kicking the can down the road is the day I probably kick the bucket. Man, I just don't believe I'm ever going to see it, at least not with this leadership in this organization. It's just their philosophy. You know what I mean? I mean, it's just I don't know that we're. I mean, do you agree? Like, do you ever think we'll see the day where they stop, as long as Mickey Loomis is in place, where they stop approaching their roster this way?
Oh, no. I mean, and that move was aggressive. That trade up, it's not a passive reload type of thing. I think they're just kind of looking through a different lens. And so I'm with you, where I'm not willing to get rid of old parameters or think that something different is going to happen here. It's just, if you were going to pay a safety, why not pay Marcus Williams in the first place?
Yeah.
And, they brought in Tyrann Mathieu. He would fit in terms of being a good complement to Marcus May. So again, unless there is an incredible free safety out there and then you just make Marcus May the strong one, you have to kind of find one that can play in the box and can cover a little bit. And Matthew would fit that bill. And so to me, going past that in free agency, unless I'm totally missing someone, would kind of just seem like a reach.
I mean, you'd be talking about expensive veterans. I mean, Tyron is one. You could certainly Alabama. Why am I blanking? Alabama Redskins or Washington football team from New Orleans. I'm blanking. Anyway, works out of traction. I'm totally blanking on his name. Someone will post. You know what I'm talking about?
My cat's climbing on me, so I.
No worries.
Get her away from my keyboard.
Landon Collins. I don't know why that totally went to a black hole in my brain as far as big name free agents. But all right, two more things for you. Maddy Hudak's our guest. When you break down all the numbers like you did in graph form and everything, did you have a big takeaway?
My takeaway was that it's better than I think the initial impression was. I think, again, the Marcus May signing got kind of incorrectly tied to Marcus Williams leaving, and people kind of saying he's not a free safety, and then Malcolm Jenkins retired, and it made a lot more sense. And I think that TJ Williams, what you really saw his jump last year, that really stuck out to me. But I just really wanted to see, what they're losing when you lose both the strong and the free at the same time, and try to kind of make it up with 4 hodgepodge guys. It's kind of like Moneyball in a way, where you're looking to solve some needs and trying to find players that fit the bill there. And so I just really wanted to see where the biggest loss was. And it was surprisingly not anything that stuck out that much other than, kind of forced fumbles, fumble recoveries, and tackles for loss, which is why, if I'm looking at draft prospects, I'm kind of looking at those aggressive ones at this point.
All right, last question then. Who are the guys in the draft that you like?
Yeah, so I really like Jaquan Brisker. I think that he has the versatility. I think that he's aggressive. He has the right size. And I mean, listen, if there's a world where Kyle Hamilton falls out of the top 4 for one reason or another, the Saints do have the ammo to go up and get him. And I don't know if everyone would like that. I'm a defense person, so I wouldn't be mad about that at all. But I think Jalen Petrie, again, kind of fits what they're looking for. Nick Cross is also someone to me who, if they don't get perhaps, one of those earlier guys, I have actually pretty strong faith in the Saints at finding deeper players at those skill players on defense, because they're really able to do that. I mean, you look at Marcus Williams in the 2nd round, TJ Garner-Johnson in the 3rd, and Paulson Adebo last year in the 3rd round, and he hadn't played a down of football the year before.
Yeah.
And they really hit on that. So I'm kind of willing to bank on what they're able to do in those later rounds. But I think those are the most attainable guys, and the ones that would kind of fit that counterpart to Marcus May, if that's really kind of what they're looking at.
Go read her piece up at Saints Wire, part of the USA Today Network. She's on Twitter at Maddy Hudak _94. Y'all give her a follow. I retweeted the piece earlier. If you want to go find it there, you can as well on my Twitter. Maddy, good stuff. We appreciate it. Have a great day. Thanks for the time.
Thanks for having me.
Hey, thanks so much for watching. Please leave your comments. I love to interact. And be sure to hit the red subscribe button below.